The Green Lantern Corps' first 4 Earth Green Lanterns all had a trial, tribulation, or tragedy to overcome. Now we're talking about Green Lantern John Stewart, the second Green Lantern, the opener of doors, the master builder himself. But we can't talk about John Stewart without talking about Green Lantern Katma Tui, the woman that trained him and then became his wife. Let's take it back. When it was time for John Stewart to become a Green Lantern full time, he didn't really want to do it. The person that got him to do it was Katma Tui. Katma told the Guardians, why are we even bothering these humans, yo, huh? All these Earthmen shook. John was like, whoa, hold on, what the fuck did I do? And with that little bit of reverse psychology, John Stewart took the job. Now, upon taking the job, he realized, yo, I need more training. The Guardians agreed, and the person they assigned to be his trainer was Katma Tui. Not only is Katma Tui a decorated Green Lantern, she's the one that got Sinestro the fuck up out of here. When Sinestro was having an iron grip on the planet Korrigar, she's the one that led the rebellion against him. And when I say rebellion, I mean rebellion. They were shooting. Katma Tui said she'd rather die than live under oppression. During the trial of Sinestro, not only was Katma a key witness, but she was also chosen by the suggestion of Tamar Ray, the guy that brought up the charges against Sinestro, to be his replacement, the new Green Lantern of Korrigar. John Stewart was a black man in the 70s standing up to authority that was in the wrong. Katma Tui came from a planet where the authority was in the wrong, and she stood up to it. She is a perfect match for John Stewart. And you might be wondering why she was talking a little spicy to John Stewart about Earth humans being cowards. That's because she was projecting a little bit due to Hal Jordan. See, Katma Tui joined the Green Lantern Corps, and she had a decorated record of service. And when she wanted to leave the service and get married, Hal Jordan was the one that was telling her no. My man was telling her to put the Corps before love. Even made a machine to show her, yo, look, see, this is why you saved me instead of your fiance. Look, you care more about the loyalty to the Corps instead of him. Katma stayed, and then a few years later, Hal Jordan found love and said he was leaving. She said, what the fuck is this about? She decked that man and called him a hypocrite. Hal Jordan wasn't even mad. He was like, yeah, you're right. And it's so ironic that now Katma Tui finds herself training Hal Jordan's successor, John Stewart. And I'm stressing their relationship so much because it's truly beautiful to see their interactions. She's shadowing John now. She's on Earth. She's following him to his place. John's like, all right, you can make yourself at home. I hope you don't mind staying here. I probably will have some women over. Actually, that's, and he's just putting his foot in his mouth, which we've never seen from John Stewart all these years later, but this is how he was when he was with Katma. And then he realizes, wait, being a Green Lantern full time and everybody knows my secret identity, I guess there's not going to be any other women around but you. He even confesses that he didn't want to become Green Lantern. He was fine being the backup quarterback. John felt that way because he had to, because he'd go crazy waiting for the Guardians to call. He convinced himself, hey, I'm just the guy they call when the other dude's hurt and I play until he gets better. Essentially, he just didn't want to always have his hopes up. But now that he's on full time, he won't let the team down. He's not trying to be the weakest link. As a matter of fact, he's trying to be better than his predecessor. That's why the lack of training really bugs him. And he's thankful for Katma's help, and he's about to tell her that too. Then he turns around to see that Katma no longer has her magenta crimson skin. She's black now. Katma says, oh, I thought I would draw too many stares with my skin, so I figured I'd just match yours. And I love this moment because John tells her, well, you're still gonna draw stares because she's gonna be a black woman now, but the majority of those stares are gonna be mine. Listen, this shit way too cute, man. Now, if there's anything you need to know about Katma Tui, it's this. Not only is she smart, not only is she funny, not only is she pretty, she's fucking petty. Let me tell you how petty. Hal Jordan left the Green Lantern Corps for Cal Ferris. John Stewart works for Cal Ferris as an architect. He's going into his job with Katma. He's then informed by Carol that she's no longer keeping him on board because he's Green Lantern. She doesn't want to attract the attention. As that's happening, Hal Jordan comes around the corner. Katma sees him, says, oh my God, Hal, you old devil, how you doing? Kisses that man. I'm talking kiss. Hal Jordan's like, what the fuck, Katma, what are you doing? Carol, Hal's girlfriend, sees us and's like, oh, you ain't tell me who this is. On the fly, John Stewart's like, oh, this is Katrina from Nigeria. And Katma's like, yeah, just call me Kat. She said to Hal, thank you for helping out John. I knew you wouldn't forget our many happy times together. All right, so we gotta go. What'd I tell you? Petty as all fuck. Hal Jordan's having to explain himself to Carol Ferris and what that was all about. John Stewart's looking at Katma like, yo, what was that about? She can't tell him that Hal Jordan is the predecessor, the Green Lantern that was before him. The Guardians don't want her to do that. And she said she'd keep that secret safe. So Katma's just like, I mean, she's firing you out of nowhere. I figure I'd just get her back, right? Do some fun time with her boyfriend real quick. Get her a little mad. When in actuality, she did that shit to fuck with Hal Jordan because he left the Corps for love and didn't let her do the same. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. Get your get back at Katma. Now Katma's kind of feeling bad, like I wonder if I was the right choice. And John Stewart's like, man, you're full of surprises. I love this relationship because she teaches him how to become a Green Lantern, how to better use his ring. He listens. John doesn't try to undermine her or anything. He's listening to her because she's the teacher, she's the veteran, she's more seasoned. They're fighting enemies together, they're off doing missions together, and then they fall in love with each other. They even get matching uniforms. They want everybody to know they go together, so much so they even get married. Katma meeting the mom and everything, and she's no longer posing as a black woman either. She's using her natural skin now too. It even gets to a point where Hal Jordan becomes a Green Lantern again and rejoins the Green Lantern Corps. And if you're wondering why Hal's rejoined the Corps, let's just say that you can tell by Katma's smile, things didn't really work out with Carol. I told you this woman was petty, because now she's got the love of her life and she has the Corps, so she ain't got to leave no more. And meanwhile, Hal, my man's in his apartment alone, taking walks by the beach by himself. My man is eating pork and beans out the fucking can. I'm sorry, but being in the dark while the phone's ringing is wild work. That man had Johnny Cash and John Denver on repeat. This man is in a whole R&B video by himself, down so fucking bad. There's your greatest Green Lantern of all time. And Katma says, you know, there's a thing we have on Korugar. I believe you guys on Earth call it karma. Katma wonders if John Stewart will still be the Green Lantern on Earth since Hal is back, and then he tells her, well, actually, I was going to go with you to your sector, go over to Korugar. Katma was surprised at first, then looked John dead in his face and said, I will share my sector and everything else I have with you for as long as we live. I love that scene. And when the Green Lanterns got reduced in numbers and they form a new Green Lantern Corps that are central to Earth, Katma moves in with John Stewart, and after an adventure, they're no longer Green Lanterns. There's few left. But they have each other, and they're happy together. But happiness and Green Lanterns don't last too long because an old enemy of Hal Jordan's, Star Sapphire, is out looking for him. Star Sapphire is a presence that takes over Carol Ferris, his girlfriend. Now, Hal Jordan was staying with John Stewart and Katma at the time, and when Star Sapphire goes by the apartment and can't find Jordan, she settles for who's there. Katma's there, unarmed. Star Sapphire kills Katma Tui just to get to Hal Jordan and leaves the body for John Stewart to find. John comes back to find his wife dead on the floor, ripped to shreds by Star Sapphire. And not only that, Star Sapphire set it up to make it look like John Stewart was the one that did it. That man crashed out at her at the trial. Rightfully so. And later on in an adventure where they run into each other again, he's ready to get that get back. He had to fight through Hal Jordan in order to get that get back. And when he has her dead to rights in his hands and is about to do her in, Hal Jordan is there and he tells him, I mean, go ahead and do it, sure. Maybe it's time that we finally end the menace of Star Sapphire. John Stewart contemplates it, but doesn't, and instead he and Hal Jordan use their powers to erase the essence of Star Sapphire from Carol Ferris. One thing you'll come to find about John Stewart, as a Green Lantern, he's got more tragedies than most. During the Cosmic Odyssey storyline, he's teamed up with the Martian Manhunter, and they got a mission on Xanxi to stop the aspect of the anti-life equation. Now, the anti-life aspect on Xanxi is throwing things in the way. The device they had to stop the anti-life equation gets destroyed. John Stewart feels that Martian Manhunter is only going to slow him down because he can handle it all on his own as he creates a new device to stop the anti-life equation. He leaves the Martian Manhunter in a green force field and goes off on his way. Manhunter screaming to him, yo, I can still help you. You don't know what lies ahead. And it should be noted that here, John Stewart is written way out of character. He's overconfident, arrogant even. John doesn't think anything can stand in his way because he's got a Green Lantern ring, the most powerful weapon in the universe. His arrogance does him in because when he gets to the center of Xanxi, he sees that there's a yellow bomb in the middle of the planet. The Green Lantern power ring is weak against the color yellow. The Martian Manhunter was 50 kilometers away and saw the explosion. The explosion itself isn't the color yellow, so John could have stopped it, but he was too shocked. The ring is able to protect him from the blast, but the world explodes along with all the citizens on it. Billions die. And John is hysterical. He's crying because this is all his fault. Martian Manhunter is quick to remind him of that because, yo, your arrogance just cost us. All this is on your head. He lets John know, yo, I will never forgive you for this. John has a hard time living with this. Literally. It gets to a point where he's sitting in a room. He orders his ring to go light years away and not to come back until he calls it back. And if he doesn't call it back, it's to go to Hal Jordan. John takes a yellow burner, puts it to his head, and contemplates. The Martian Manhunter sees this and asks him, well, you gonna do it or what? I mean, you might as well, because maybe you're not cut out for this, because a hero has to live with the consequences of their actions. That man is laying it on thick, using reverse psychology, just like Katma Tui did. And apparently this is what works on John, because he contemplates, then he stops. He walks by the Martian Manhunter saying, screw you. Martian Manhunter smiles to himself. Now, fresh off of that tragedy, there was a Guardian of the Universe that went rogue and created a world filled with all these different civilizations from different planets. All these cities crashed together. It was called the Mosaic World. When that Guardian was defeated, it was hard to undo what was done. So John Stewart was charged with making this civilization work. And long story short, he did, even when he didn't have the support of Green Lantern Hal Jordan. Hal thought that John wasn't acting like himself, that he was going crazy, that he was under the influence of someone or something, to a point where he forcibly invades John Stewart's mind. Oh, and that ain't gonna stand. And they duking it out. As a matter of fact, they say, oh, well, we can't move furniture around in here, so let's make this a mental battle. Keep in mind, when a Green Lantern does it mentally, you can still die. And Hal is a son of a bitch because he uses Katma's death as well as the explosion of Zangshi to build doubt and attack John Stewart's willpower. John Stewart, he's feeling them blows, but he comes back because there's way more to him than just one thing. Unlike Hal Jordan, they are taking personal shots and personal digs at each other. But John lays it out like it is, like, yo, I'm all these different things. I can take all these multitudes. You don't. All you do is copy, Hal. He tells that man he has no real depth, basically. And after a back and forth and Hal trying to deal with all these different aspects of John, he gets knocked out by the stick-up kid version of John. John shows him, just because you don't understand what I'm doing doesn't mean I'm in the wrong and you're automatically in the right. It's also got to be noted that Kilowog heard about John putting Hal on his ass and he was happy. Kilowog's like, yo, don't get me wrong, Hal Jordan, great lantern. Matter of fact, best lantern I've ever seen. But he needs someone to put him on his ass every once in a while. And when John Stewart finally makes the Mosaic World work, the Guardians of the Universe who were watching all along and treating this like an experiment, they had the faith that John Stewart would be the one to make this work because they had their eye on him for a while before he was even born. They called him the Master Builder. This is him being the opener of doors. John Stewart has become something else now. We always talk about Kyle Rayner's time as Ion. John Stewart becomes the first human Guardian. My man says, okay, I've ascended, swallows his power ring, and then transforms. John was so powerful that he was even able to bring back his wife Katma Tui. And the Guardians allowed it too. They saw him do this even before he realized he was a human Guardian now. They allowed it essentially as a gift toward John Stewart. They always talk about the Guardians being heartless, but this is one of the few moments where they showed heart. And we see John Stewart, through the tragedy of losing his wife and the tragedy of blowing up an entire planet, come out the other side clean. And it's funny how the greatest Green Lantern title is passed on to a lot of people. Abin Sur, Sinestro, and now Hal Jordan has it. Had it for a long time too. But everyone forgets about this aspect of John Stewart, that he was the first human Guardian. Only one too since. And the status is short-lived because remember what Hal Jordan did. He took all the power of the Green Lantern power battery for himself in becoming Parallax. So that means John Stewart is no longer a human Guardian. He finds himself immortal again, which means he's lost Katma again for a second time. And now that Hal Jordan has taken away the Green Lantern Corps, John Stewart now finds himself becoming a Dark Star, the other police force in the universe. And a lot of folks forget that when Kyle Rayner becomes the last Green Lantern, John Stewart was still active as a Dark Star. They'd even fought beside each other, and it was in a fight against Darkseid's son Graven where John Stewart found himself crippled. John Stewart is paralyzed and may never walk again, but that doesn't stop him from becoming a mentor to Kyle Rayner, the last Green Lantern. I think people forget that Kyle Rayner, he ain't have no daddy, but John Stewart, that was that boy's daddy. While Kyle Rayner was a Green Lantern, John Stewart was there for almost every step of the way. And Kyle was more than thankful for that. Now, I've told you about how Jordan becoming Parallax and how he restarted the sun. Before he did that, he paid a visit to John Stewart. There wasn't really that much of a conversation about the actions of Hal Jordan and what it cost John Stewart or what happened between them. But before he went to reignite the sun, one of Hal Jordan's last acts as Parallax was fixing the spine of John Stewart. When Hal's fix wore off on John Stewart's spine, he had to realize, wait, this is a psychosomatic symptom I'm dealing with. That's why I can't walk now. John began seeing a therapist. He was telling him about the planet of Zangshi blowing up, losing his wife, the crippling of him by Graven. It wasn't until they reached deeper that they found that there was a memory that John Stewart was repressing. John remembers being a young kid, 15, taking the car for a joyride and nearly killing his younger brother. But there was a death. The puppy Rose in the back. And once we dig deeper, we see that's not what really happened. John was out for a ride with his younger brother. Yeah, that puppy in the back wasn't a puppy. It was his younger sister, Rose. And she died. Dog, I don't know how rough one lantern has to fucking have it, but John Stewart knows the freaking answer because he's lived through that shit. Now, as tragic as John Stewart's career as a Green Lantern has been, we've seen a lot of triumphs as well. As much as I hate the arrogance they gave to him out of character in Cosmic Odyssey, ever since then, that man has never not had a plan. And what's funny about John Stewart is he's a bit of a control freak. He's a creature of habit. After every big fight or event the Green Lanterns have, there's one place he goes: the remains of Zhangxi. When it comes to mistakes, John Stewart learns from them. He doesn't repeat them. And years later, we see the Martian Manhunter have a conversation with John Stewart, telling him that he had forgiven him a long time ago. John Stewart's tragedies have forced him to make many hard calls as a Green Lantern, especially as a leader of the Green Lantern Corps. And listen, I ain't here to talk feats. I like talking facts. The Guardians trusted this man. The Guardians had faith in this man before he was even born. Again, he's called the opener of doors, the master builder. It's always a shame how they always focus on Hal Jordan being the greatest Green Lantern, but with all that backing of the Guardians, what was he then? To me, he's the most brilliant Green Lantern. John Stewart has always been the troubleshooter and problem solver amongst the Green Lanterns. There's always a lot of focus now on his military background as the coldest sniper in the Marines. It's important not to forget that before all that, he's an architect. And it's also important to remember the way he was with Katma, the love, the compassion, the listening. I'm really sad on the way we saw Katma go out, because she was fridged before fridging was even the thing. And it's a shame because John Stewart was the only human of the Green Lantern Corps that was married and was a good fucking husband too. Apparently that's a hard thing to write nowadays in comic books, but we saw it back then with John Stewart. Husband, architect, incredible sniper, incredible Green Lantern. Just like he said, he has all these different multitudes, and it doesn't even stop there. Let's remember, this man is fucking brilliant. Exactly why he was the mentor to young Kal Rayner, the last Green Lantern, who we're going to be talking about next.